My take on InfoComm 2023. I'm Hewie Poplock. I attended the InfoComm in Orlando on June 14th, 2023. InfoComm is the largest professional audiovisual trade show in North America, with thousands of products for audio unified communications and collaboration, display, video, control, digital signage, home automation, and live events. It was a huge show. Here is the Expo floor plan. I increased the size of what it looked like so you can get an idea of how many booths and how big they are. First thing you do when you go anywhere is where you're parking in a huge lot, you want to take a picture of where you're parking, and that's what this is. I'm at the Orange County Convention Center in Orlando. As I was walking across the entrance to the convention center, I could see on either side the floor plan for the expo, and I want to show you on one side and then on the other side. This is before it opened up. Waiting for it to open at 9 a.m. on that Wednesday, they had a ribbon cutting and then let us all in. The first booth I went to was Shocks, which used to be called Aftershocks. And since I own a couple of these bone conduction headsets, I wanted to talk to them and see what's new. They do have a new model out. Talked to Kim from Shocks. I talked to her about tech for seniors, and she was quite impressed. Right next to them was Zoom. Zoom wasn't talking about the normal Zoom as we know it. They were talking about all of the new things that they have in hardware for connections and big conferences, communications in companies between employees and different offices and so on. This is part of what their display looked like. They were showing some of the hardware that's available. These were cameras and microphones. Then I went to a different booth, and it showed a setup for doing your own interview or podcast. It was something they rent. They don't sell it by piece, but they can put it together, ship it to you, or if you're in one of the areas where they are, they can actually deliver it to you and set it up. Here I am in front of it. And again, it's like this. I like the idea of the camera on top of a flat box around the screen. One of the other things I was very impressed with were the large signage companies. And when I say large, they were large, and you're going to see several of them as I progress. This is one that was a corner view and 3D as well. So let's kind of zoom in on it. You can see the 3D where part of the Stingray was outside of the actual screen or the aquarium. As you can tell, it is a corner, so you could be on one side or the other, and it was just gorgeous. Let's see what it really looks like. This is a large panel, very thin, and you can see that with that person walking by, it's huge. And then on top of it, they had some other signage as well. But isn't that gorgeous? It's just an example of some of the signage that was available using LEDs. Let's take a look at this up close. Now he's going to put his hand on the globe. It looks 3D, but it is just a round globe. Now here's some more. As we look up, we can see that same video on other large screen devices. Just unbelievable. Again, here's some more. One of the booths had a podcast by appointment, and different people could come in and use the studio, which was set up by one of the employees of this company who was doing it in previous InfoComm, stayed dormant, wasn't being used, and he suggested let people use it throughout the show. And so these are people who had nothing to do with the company that were just using the facility to create an edition of their podcast. So a video, so you can see some motion, nothing big. This was gorgeous. As you can see, let's take a look at it. It's huge. What a gorgeous signage, but let's take it a little bit further. This is that same sign, but It steps out of the picture and then runs away. Just amazing. There's another booth that had different ways to create meetings, and they're showing some different cameras and all different kinds of equipment for doing meetings. This is what I think Ron should have for all of his equipment. I'm not sure how much it would cost. I'm sure more than his house. However, it is gorgeous. People really know how to use these things. To their people, this is the company that sells. Stopped at another booth, and the camera that I'm using today for Tech for Senior is one of their cameras. The company is Boom Collaboration, and I'm using the Boom Mini, and this is another one called the Boom Uno. Here's what they both look like. I don't have a Boom Uno yet. They promised to send me one, and I'll be able to do a review and report on it. It has a microphone, a camera, and a speaker all built into the same unit. This is a gaming table. The booth was for the furniture people, but then I went to eSports, which had a big booth, and they actually had a gaming room replicated here, and they weren't playing the game at this point. There was a speaker who is the manager of an eSports location, and he was talking about how they set it up and how they use it. Very interesting, as well as one of their control boards where you could actually, or where they can actually look at the different users in the game as well as their screens. This was a movie scene with equipment. There was a camera on the end of that robotic arm. It moved down, got a close-up, and they're using these large signs as the backdrop for video and for movies, and so they don't have to now move to locations for a lot of the production. This is another LED screen, that one in the back, the blue one. There was somebody standing on the platform in front of it, and then I watched them. They actually were able to move different items. They could move the shoes around, the buttons around. In other words, it's an active screen on top of it being gorgeous. Oh, I like this one. Just amazed. And that's all done with LED screens in a circle on a pedestal. Just gorgeous. But the lady that was demonstrating in the booth, she's on an LED screen on the floor, and it looks like she's actually walking on it, moving water as she goes with fish or koi swimming underneath her feet. I went to another booth similar that had LED screens, but what I liked about this is they had a large sign in a circular, and then they had what it looks like. And the manager saw me taking pictures of it, and he came over and said, well, here, let me show you. And so what he did, you can see that it actually going round. And then what he did was to take that sample. We'll be there in just a moment. This is all LED screens. Now he takes it, and you can see what the back of it looks like. It's unbelievable that you're getting such beautiful pictures out of it. And then he just rolls it up while it's still on. Then he spread it out, and he said, I was renting a scooter, and I was on the scooter, and he said, well, why don't you just drive over it? I said, are you kidding me? And he said, no. So I handed him my phone to take a picture, and then let's move to the next one here, and let's watch him taking a picture of me on my scooter. I got to get turned around. He's got to get set up. But I was trying to avoid running over it. And she said, no, go right over it. So I went over it. And then I went over the actual one that he showed us. No damage to it. No problem with it. This is all LED technology that's available now. This is a holographic invisible screen. You'll see that there are people behind it, so the screen is like looking through a window, but there's a hologram in front of it. And that hologram changes into all different kinds of things, including signage and some pictures. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I'm not going to show this whole one because there are several things that it changes into, including birds and other things. Here I met up with a good friend that I see when I go to Orlando shows. He was a monitor distributor back when I had a computer store back in the 90s, and we've remained friends over the years, and we met at this show. I also went to Mrs. Myrtle. This is her daughter, Pat's daughter, and Pat visits us on several of our meetings. And this is her daughter who was running one of the booths in the show. This show is so big they have a daily 82-page newspaper, but it's not on newspaper. It's on very slick magazine type paper. 82 pages per day. There's a typical page with news about different items that are in the show, and then also many of them have advertisements of the various vendors. As I was leaving, I took a picture again from that same entranceway and exit way from both sides of the floor with people on it. So that's my take on the InfoComm 2023. I'm Hewie Poplock. Thanks for joining.